Unfortunately for Mr. Beto O'Rourke, he can't get a break. First of all, because no one knows what his policy positions are. And second of all, because I guess he's a guy. So when he made a comment about being born to be in the presidential race or the debates, he got dragged by Vox because they said Beto is playing to liberal fears about running a woman against Trump. A woman could never make his born to be in it remark. And we'll get to that. We'll get to the Beto being, I guess, inadvertently misogynist. I don't know. It's weird because I guess the issue they're concerned about is society, not so much that Beto is ambitious. It's kind of weird. More importantly, though, it is wildly unclear whether Beto O'Rourke supports Medicare for all. In fact, the tab, I think it says, "What does Beto O'Rourke believe?" or something like that. I don't know what the actual, let me see if that comes up. What does Beto O'Rourke think about Medicare for all and investigation? What does the presidential candidate think about single payer? Beto O'Rourke's website, as I covered yesterday, has no policy positions. In fact, there was a segment run on Fox News where somebody, it was an interview they did, and they asked what was one of Beto O'Rourke's accomplishments. And the guy responded with something like, how could he have accomplished anything with Republicans controlling Congress? And the interviewer on Fox was like, I'm not asking about in Congress, it's in general. And then the guy said, your question is irrelevant. And so I started thinking, I got to be honest. I don't know what Beto O'Rourke actually is campaigning on. Is he campaigning on anything? He lost his Senate race. He was just a congressman. Why is he running at all? It's simple. He's got the brand power. He was pushed so heavily for the Senate in Texas that he's got the name recognition to actually run. Of course, he will not win. Beto O'Rourke will never win the presidency in the next few years. Maybe in the future. I don't know. I don't think he's got the material. I don't think he's got the X factor. I guess the power. But it is going to be great for him in terms of writing a book and going on tour and building up a profile, which he can then go back to Texas and run for senator and try and win again. They say it's easy to find clips of presidential candidate Beto O'Rourke talking about healthcare. He posts about it on Facebook. It comes up at multiple town halls that he held during 2018. What's a lot harder to figure out is exactly what type of healthcare systems the former Texas Congress member supports. O'Rourke entered the Democratic primary on Thursday, and a close reading of his policy positions on healthcare reveals he vacillates between Medicare for all as the best way to ensure Americans get healthcare they need and criticism of the Medicare for all plans offered. He once described writing his own Medicare for all plan, but so far no such plan has been made public. His presidential campaign site doesn't yet have a section on policy proposals. What is this guy doing? Well, you know what? Even though he has no policy positions, it won't stop the attacks against him because everything is the culture war, all of it. Beto O'Rourke jumped into the Democratic presidential primary on Thursday, sounding like he hasn't heard much about the big debate in recent years over how we judge male and female leaders. Just before he announced his run, Beto boasted to Vanity Fair that, I want to be in it. Man, I'm just born to be in it. NBC reporter Cassie Hunt spotted the inherent double standard the comment represents. Men are rewarded in politics for showing ambition while women are punished. Let me just clarify. Excuse me. Beto didn't say anything. He just said like, wow, I'm born to be here. Like, he doesn't literally think he was born as some kind of prophet to enter the race. He's just expressing that there's a lot of characteristics within him that make him a good fit. Well, several reporters are dragging him for it, and he literally didn't do anything. Like, could you imagine doing literally nothing, having no policy positions and just saying, I'd like to debate, and then having the media come after you? I'm telling you, 2020, this is going to be an insane Democratic primary. Hunt's point is well supported. One prominent study found that people are less likely to vote for a woman if they see her as power-seeking, while male politicians pay no price for similar behavior. And that's fine if the study shows it. It's crazy to me that this reflects poorly on Beto, a guy who's kind of a blank, he's a, man, what is he doing? I don't know what his policy positions are or what he even wants to do. It's going to be his fault, though. They said he's not paying attention. The same study found that power-seeking female politicians induced feelings of moral outrage among male and female voters. The shorthand for all this, ambition, is a celebrated trait in men, but both men and women don't like ambitious women. Why is that? No, seriously, I have no idea why. I mean, if a study finds it, what is this from? This is from Harvard. Well, then, yeah, there's something. What do you think? We'll keep going, but you can comment. Excuse me. Do you think this is an issue of just men and women being different and viewing people differently, or is this cultural? Is this socially constructed? O'Rourke represents one of two competing visions for how Democrats want to take on President Trump in 2020. On one side are those who fear a female candidate, will face the same challenge with white men as Hillary Clinton. As Ron Brownstein found in The Atlantic, Trump beat her by nearly 50 points among blue-collar white men. Yes, but is that due to gender, or is it due to the fact that Hillary Clinton was pro-free trade and blue-collar men want their jobs back? That margin gave Trump an edge in Midwestern states and carried him to an electoral college victory, despite big cultural conversations about how to think about abuse of power. Now is not the moment, they argue, to attempt to redefine entrenched ideas about what leadership looked like. Here's my issue. The assumption that everything is sexist, everything is misogynist or racist. Why did Trump win blue-collar white men? Factories are shutting down, opioid crisis, things that Donald Trump addressed. He said NAFTA was bad. These blue-collar white men saw that. Hillary Clinton was, it was Bill Clinton who pushed this, so it reflects on her. The immediate assumption, listen, Democrats, the left, the immediate assumption that the negativity comes from sexism is going to cost you the fight. It's going to cost you the race, because instead of focusing on how to solve the problem, you're stuck in a mindset on a surface level condition instead of the root cause of the problem. Perhaps if Hillary Clinton came out and said no war, no free trade, we're going to bring jobs back to the U.S., they would have voted for her. But look, Bernie Sanders said all those things. Bernie Sanders said the Koch brothers want open borders to bring in, cheap labor. And Bernie Sanders opposed the free trade agreements. 12% of his voters, between 12 and 18, depending on your source, went to Trump. So I think it's an issue of policy. It's so insane to me. They reduce the argument down to just what the people look like. At the same time, another camp doesn't see these two goals in conflict. Women were crucial to Democrats retaking the House in 2018. They've fueled a sustained resistance to the Trump administration. They're a key voting bloc. Their influence is surging. Democrats have a chance to set up a clear contrast to Trump in running a woman who presents a new vision for leadership. Even running a male candidate who rejects the old notions of male leadership, they argue, could actually help defeat Trump. But I'm going to say, if at the end of the day, you don't get into policy and say, this is how we will help you, you're not going to win. You're just talking about these surface level, cultural identity issues. As and I'll say this too, there's a stark contrast, in my opinion, between the modern left and right's view of what's happening. Because the left very often says it was white men who voted for Trump. They did. They absolutely did. They say it's sexism, it's racism. Maybe it's an issue of policy, right? You have people who want to push this narrative. Maybe it's a combination of both. Maybe there are people who are concerned about changing demographics. But at the end of the day, when you look at the popularity of Ben Shapiro, and he says it's not about color, it's about ideology, I think you're wrong then to make this assumption, because Ben Shapiro's got one of the top podcasts in the world. He's a conservative, and he's not even a hardcore Trump supporter. As Democrats grapple with what leadership in the party should look like against the backdrop of Trump, O'Rourke's initial presentation looks retrograde, but the real test will be how he runs against the Democratic women he's up against. After serving 3 terms in the House, O'Rourke burst onto the national political scene with his Senate run in 2018, raising big money from liberals for daring to run against arch-conservative Ted Cruz. As an unapologetic liberal on issues like climate change, he argued that Democrats didn't have to compromise to succeed in red states like Texas to win. Then well played, Vox. Then he lost. Bingo. Yes, maybe you do need to compromise and figure out what your constituents want in terms of representation. They say his next act was a 3-month road trip to clear his head, find adventure, and get out of a funk. He journaled on Medium, really? And posted on his journey. His wife stayed behind to work and take care of their children. Yikes. Seriously, dude? You went on a 3-month road trip while your wife was watching the kids? He began his self-enrichment tour with a rambling post about taking a break to better himself. Wow, Vox is really dragging this dude. They do not like Beto. What happened? Yesterday I showed that video where they had those women doing that, hokey dance thing that was really cringy. But man, they seem to be falling out of love with Beto. Is it because of identity politics? Is it because Beto has no policy positions and is poison for the Democrats? I'm going to say this. As somebody who recently I mentioned I supported Tulsi and Andrew Yang, I'm looking at Beto O'Rourke as like the last person to support because he's just hollow. There's nothing there. I'm not exaggerating. There's like, what is he? What does he represent? What is he voting for? What has he gotten done? Why is he even running? So Vox, I agree. This guy's got nothing. It's a rambling post. I also want to point out, as someone who I am a socially liberal individual, I'm actually shocked to find this guy's trying to run as a Democrat while going off on an adventure by himself while leaving his wife to take care of his children. That seems anti-progressive. Like that blew my mind. I did not know that. So Jessica Valenti's even dragging him. Says, I do not love this. Beto tells a coffee shop crowd that he just talked with his wife, Amy. She is raising, sometimes with my help, their 3 kids, then says he's running for president for his kids and theirs. Man, Beto, you do not know how to talk to Democrats. All right, let's just read the conclusion on this. I don't want to, ramble forever. If these old sexist lines continue, Democrats could leave a mark on their field of female stars heading into 2020. What does O'Rourke plan to do? Yes, Beto, you need some policy positions. And wow, you are not reading the Democrats right. But I'll say this too, to be fair. I think maybe Vox is out of touch. Maybe it's the Democrats that are out of touch because the AFL-CIO came out against the Green New Deal. All the mainstream Democrats supported it. They have no idea what labor and the working class in this country want. And maybe Beto's actually speaking to regular old working class families that are more traditional. Could be wrong. Anyway, stick around. I got another video coming up at 4 p.m. on my main channel. You can find that at youtube.com/Timcast. It is a different channel from this one. Don't ask me why. YouTube just did it that way. I will see you then.